How do you feel about Mayor Coyne's recent tax proposal for roads and sewers, and about council's amendments? The one amendment that passed limited it to 5 years, and the one that failed would have cut the percentage in half, and as you know, the mayor vetoed it. So how do you feel about his veto?
The biggest issue that I have with the tax proposals was that they waited so long to introduce them. They waited, both the council and then the mayor waited to veto it. There was no time for there to be any more back and forth compromise, which is what was needed. And that's one of the biggest issues I think with our current council is they don't want to take a stand on something, so they wait to the last minute and then nothing ever happens.
Okay, you want to follow up?
Sure. My problem with the tax proposal, as I spoke to council at a meeting, was last year they proposed a twofold tax increase, and it was supposed to fix a multitude of problems. Now we come to this year and they're only introducing one, and they seem to have forgotten a couple of the other things. So again, this is where I think my skill set comes in, is the communications is a piece that's broken at council. As I walk the streets of the city of Brook Park, regardless of which side they're on the tax proposal or any other issue, everybody seems to agree on that. We do not have a good communications piece between council and mayor, or even council themselves. The other thing about the 5 years, as I went to the meeting and they discussed whether it was going to be ongoing or a 5-year proposal, it had not even been put on the ballot yet, and they were already talking about where they were going to move the money elsewhere, and that to me came to be a trust issue. If you say you're going to be using it just for roads and sewers, then that's not what we need to adhere to, so that people can learn to trust their government again.
Okay, your turn.
The problem that I have with the thing is there's no plan where the money's going to go. I think if you walk our streets, you can clearly see that we need something to happen. We've got roads that are just literally falling apart. We still have basements that are flooding. So an influx of money is not a bad thing. It could be a very good thing. But there needs to be a plan in place that say, this is exactly where this dollar is going to go. This is exactly where this dollar is going to go. And I agree with the 5-year plan, because we don't know what's going to happen with our economic development. We don't know what's going to happen at Ford. There may be another influx of money that comes in if Ford brings another engine or 2 engines in. We don't know what's going to happen there. So I'm okay with the time limit that they put on. I think it's the smart thing to do. And I would like to see it pass, but I think it's going to take a lot of council, a lot of our city leaders to step forward, because it was resoundingly defeated last time.
And Jeff?
I might have a different approach than maybe my fellow candidates up here. I am for the tax increase, and I was for the permanent marking of that tax increase, and for several reasons. One, I think that the city definitely needs more revenue, plain and simple, to take care of the assets that we have within our city. And I think that tax increase was not just a tax increase, it was an opportunity for investment to be done within our city. It would have freed up a lot of the general fund money to deal with some of the other challenges that we're facing, whether it's safety, fire is an issue. I'm sure that's a question coming here down the road at us. And there's so many things that are needed. I agree with Mike. The plan that was proposed, or the streets database that was passed out, wasn't a very well produced plan. There's so many opportunities for improvement there, but I really view that tax increase was an opportunity for us as residents of Brook Park to take a stand and say, we are going to invest in our city. We're not going to rely on what may come down the road. We have to deal with that problem right now. We have 76 miles of streets in our city. Streets last 35 to 40 years by a design standard. So we're at the end of the useful life for most of our streets. We should be replacing 1 to 2 miles a year. We're not. And if you replace 1 mile a year, that's a 76-year replacement schedule. And right now, that's too long. We need the money to bring investment back into our city.
Okay, next up now, everybody can have 60 seconds to rebut if they want, and again, starting with Julie. Anything you want to say about what the other people said?
I would just agree that there's a major communication problem within our city, within council, the mayor, and I would agree with what he said about that.
Okay, Jack?
I would personally like to thank Jeff for bringing that up, because it's one of the points that he and I have talked about quite at length. And I disagreed with the tax proposal for a very good reason, and everybody seems to have touched on it, is the communications piece that's missing. it doesn't matter what you want to do with the money if you don't have the people in place that can agree on where it's going to go and how it's going to get done. And so to me, that needs to be put on the back burner until we can get to a point where we can talk those things out. I made a proposal to a couple of them where the 0.5% increase could be split so that it would cover different avenues in the city and then more of it roll in as some of those things get fixed. And nobody seemed to want to listen. And I think that's part of the problem. Not that my idea was the correct one, but there should be more options on the table than just one. And I think my fellow candidates have agreed with that. And that has been a problem in the past. You can't just give them a blank check.
Okay, Mike?
As a leader, I think you have to recognize what you can and you cannot get passed through legislation or for the vote. And I think if they made it a permanent tax and they put it back out there, it would resoundingly get vetoed again. It would just be destroyed again, like it was last time. Without that plan and without a group effort, it's never going to pass. And like I said, we definitely need an influx of money. There's no doubt about that, to help us repair our streets and get that going.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with a lot of things that were stated here. Number one, the communication was terrible between our council and the mayor and the administration. Nobody wanted to budge, plain and simple, on that. There was last-minute discussions made on these amendments that were brought forth by council that were made last minute, which wasn't brought out in open. It wasn't brought out in a healthy conversation that's needed. And the point that Mike made regarding leadership, I agree with this statement on leadership. We need to know what can or can't pass, but between a 5-year and a permanent year, there's many other options, 10-year, 15-year, something that could have been discussed, and it was not discussed. Nobody took a proactive stance to say, let's bring this forward and have more discussion on it. Some last-minute amendments were thrown in, and the voters don't get a chance to even voice their opinion now, which just pushes the problem down one more year.
Thank you. And let me clarify to the viewers, there were two tax proposals, different tax proposals on the ballot last year that the voters heavily defeated. This year's proposal was specifically for roads and sewers, and council amended it, and then Mayor Coyne vetoed it because he didn't like the amendments. So nothing will be on the ballot this fall for taxes.